Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's discussion about mindset and how your mindset affects language facilitation and everything else. This is a really important topic, and today I'm going to tell you about 6 different things about mindset. So I'm going to talk about what mindset is. I'm going to talk about what establishes mindset or what sets it in stone, and then also what changes mindset. And then I'm going to talk about the process that kids and everyone else goes through to change our mindset and achieve whatever we want to achieve in life. And I'm going to talk about the traps that people fall into in the process of changing their mindset that trips them up and sometimes holds them back. And then I'm going to talk about how to avoid traps in the future. My name is Marcy Melzer, and I am an intuitive speech and language pathologist, and I help parents teach their children how to use the words they need to share their wisdom with the world. And I do that by teaching their parents how to use a process called language facilitation. And a big part of that process is working on your mindset as a parent and actually adopting the mindset of a language facilitator. And language facilitators are catalysts of change, I guess is for lack of a better word. We're trying to get kids to move from their current nonverbal communication patterns into using verbal language. And the reason that kids are using the kinds of communication systems that they're using now is because it is in their mindset that that is how to communicate. That's all they know. That's what they use. And in order for you as a parent to become a language facilitator, you have to help your kids change their mindset, and you'll have to do some mindset change of your own. So let's dig in and get started with what is mindset. It is your mindset that makes you decide to do everything. Whether you act on something or not depends on whether you like it or it resonates with you. And so that's where mindset goes. And it's important for us to understand mindset for language facilitation because we're taking action here to make change. And in order to make any kind of change, you have to take action. You can think about it in your mind all you want, but it's never going to happen unless you take some kind of action. And so unless your mindset says take some action, and it's not going to, nothing's going to happen. So that's why mindset is so important. All right, so what establishes mindset is this: expectation. So what ends up happening with most people is that when you have an expectation and you continue to work toward that expectation and your effort is driven towards meeting only that one goal, and then that effort is unsuccessful, that means then you give up. So the way that you actually need to change your mindset is with this, with tested results and proof. Those are the only things that are going to change your mind. And it's just like your child, let's say they don't like to try a new food. And they don't like to try any new food. Let's say they only like to eat one thing or 3 things, and they're all white, none of them are vegetables or whatever like that. In order to change your child's mind about those things, you have to try to get them to try at it. Sometimes kids will try a bite of something and then go, oh, that wasn't so bad after all. It can be the most delicious thing. Even babies, the first time they try ice cream, they're freaked out because it's cold, and then they go, wait a minute, that was a good experience. Or here's another example, like when you're jumping off a diving board for the first time into the deep water, and you've seen all the other kids do it and you want to give it a try, but you've never done it before and you're a little bit afraid about it. Unless you really try it out, then you're never going to know if you want to do it. If you're jumping off the diving board into the pool and it's a great experience, then you never stop jumping off the diving board. It's like riding a bike. You might be afraid to start to ride a bike, and once you experience riding up the street, you think it's fabulous and you never want to stop riding a bike. And that's what's great about change and mindset. And the thing is, when you have no expectation and you just try it, so you eliminate the expectation altogether and you just give it a go because it seems like a good idea. You see the other kids jumping off the high dive, and so you jump off too because it seems like a good idea. Now, sometimes we change our mindset based on things we try that we think were good ideas, but they turn out to be not such good ideas, like eating a big meal and then getting on a roller coaster. Maybe not such a good idea, and you sort of learn your lesson from that. And that's what mindset change is. It's all about learned lessons, positive lessons and negative lessons. The only way you're going to change your mind about something is to get some kind of proof that the alternative is different and more acceptable to you. Now that we know what it takes to change mindset, how does that process work for language facilitation? So remember, we're changing your child's mindset about communication. They think that whatever they're using now, nonverbal, dragging you around, sign language, gestures, iPad, whatever they're doing, tantrums, all of that, they think, because that's what is going on right now in their mindset, that is how communication works, because that's how they get what they want, however they're doing it. And you know that that's not the best system available, because verbal language is the best system available. But you don't know how to get your child to change from their mindset of this is working for me, even if you know, most of the effort is on you as the parent to actually figure out what's going on. It's still working for me as a kiddo, and I still ultimately get what I want. So, I don't have the same motivation for change as you do. All right. And this is where language facilitation is key, and mindset change is key. Okay, it might not be your fault that the circumstances are the way they are, but it is your responsibility to act to change them from where they are now into the new place. Okay, and in the case of language facilitation, you as the parent are the facilitator. So you are the one who has to make these changes. Okay, and so in order to do this, in order to make this change, you have to start with the first steps. And the first steps are to get an idea and to make a plan. And so the idea behind language facilitation is, I believe that I can help my child learn to use language naturally. I believe that my child has words inside, they have wisdom they want to share with the world, and I believe that as a parent. That's the idea of becoming a language facilitator. I know that my child has language, and I am down for the job, wanting to take it on, ready to go. Your plan starts with basic strategies. If you're in the Waves of Communication program, you get a very detailed, structured, exact plan to give you the strategies you need. What you need to do in order to make this plan is to evaluate what the current circumstance is and what you want to achieve. Okay, but what's important in establishing your plan is you can't look too far ahead. If your child isn't responding to you, even the first step is them responding to you. So you can't expect the first step for them to be saying sentences or requesting everything as soon as you ask them a question without working on your foundations first. So that's why the first step has to be super, super, super easy. Okay, and that's really all that's important. Yeah, in the Waves of Communication program, you get all your steps. But in order for you yourself as a parent to start your language facilitation journey, you just need the first one. You just need to start from where you know you can help your child learn to use language naturally. And that's what the parents in the Waves of Communication program are doing, because they are starting at square one, the easiest step, and then they are moving into the easiest possible strategy and practicing that strategy. Their kids are seeing results because they're making it easy for them, and then they're spontaneously doing harder things because now the kids learn that language is useful for them, and now their confidence. Yet last night on my group meeting, I had a mom tell me that her son is now negotiating with her to get more iPad time verbally. You know, he's saying things like, this is a child who a couple of months ago, 6 weeks ago, was nonverbal, is now saying things like, one more iPad minute, you know, things like that to try to negotiate. And then I have other kids who are now so good at their social communication that they used to be so frustrated and upset by it, that these kids are now making friends. They are working so hard with their own speech intelligibility and practice that they are making friends with their peers, and they're even getting bossy in one case, trying to, you know, boss their friends around. Friends who they previously were intimidated by are now so confident in their language skills that they're bossing them around. These kids are bossing their parents around with verbal language, telling them what to do. Because here's the thing, when we have something that's fun, what was hard is now fun. And what's great is we want to practice fun stuff. Just like when you jump off the diving board and the first time you do it is great and you struggle to get to the surface and you're like, oh, that was fun, and then I want to try it again, and then you get better and better and better, and eventually you join the diving team, okay? You become expert Olympic diver, because it all started with you potentially being afraid to jump off the diving board, but now you're an Olympic diver. And that's what happens, is you practice what you think is fun, and then you work at it harder and you take on the challenges. And the challenges that used to be challenging are now fun. And you know, a lot of kids who are late talkers really do enjoy a challenge on their term, meaning that when a challenge is fun, when they can see success, when they know how to work through it, they love it. So many late talking children love puzzles. They'll do anything for a puzzle because the puzzle is built in easy task and built-in success. It's not like, you know, there's a completion. You finish the puzzle. Woohoo, we did it. You achieve the thing. That's why people spend money to go break out of rooms and solve puzzles and do that stuff, because a challenge that is motivating, that you have the right attitude about, and that you have had some success with is fun. When they do those breakout rooms, the first tasks are always super easy, because, you know, if they made the first thing so hard, people would hate it. And for some families in the Waves of Communication program, it has flown seamlessly until they run into some resistance, okay? And there are traps, okay? These traps that I'm talking about here, these are the traps that I'm going to tell you will stop your mindset change in its tracks, okay? All this potential improvement that you see, that you are building and gaining, and your child is doing new kinds of communication, even if it's not verbal expression yet, what happens to stop that mindset change in its tracks are these things, okay, right here. And so the first one I'm going to tell you about is expectations. Expectations, just like we talked about before. Remember, mindset change involves letting go of expectations and working at your plan. But what happens is people get working in their plan and they see a little improvement. And then, they think, wait a minute, this improvement should continue forever, but something happens that stalls it out. Let go of your expectation and get back to your plan to do it. All right, so here's the other thing is worry. Worry is a trap that will stop your mindset change in its tracks. As soon as you start to focus your thinking about the future, what if it doesn't happen? What if we don't see words? What if he doesn't follow directions? What if it doesn't work? Those worry things, those are going to stop you in your tracks. And that's because you're focusing on what's not even happening, because you're not focusing on the kinds of improvement that you've already made. And that's where your energy needs to be, in working every day and following your plan. Okay? We're never going to get the results that we're looking for until we try at it. Okay? With our strategies, with our plan. Okay? So the other thing is impatience. Big trap. Because impatience leads to worry, which leads to expectations. Anytime you have expectations, the expectations aren't working, so then you get impatient because it's not happening as fast as you thought it would, okay? Which is an expectation, okay? Making change takes time. If we're getting from some real area of resistance, it might take time. But if your first step is easy enough, and what you are facilitating and encouraging for your child is easy enough for them to see success with your help, then you cannot not see improvement, because you're offering your child the opportunity to experience the success that builds their confidence, that helps them learn to say language, okay? The last thing, especially in language facilitator parents, that we run into is comparisons. So if you decide that language facilitation is the way to go for your child, you have to follow your own path. You have to follow your own journey. And when you look at other parents and you see other parents, you have to understand that you are on your own. Your own starting point is different than someone else's starting point. And the best way to overcome any of these traps, if you feel expectations setting in, if you start to get worried if this stuff isn't gonna work because he said 10 words the first week and then the second week he only said 2 new words, and then you start to think about the gratitude. Wait a minute. Now our family's happier and we don't have tantrums anymore. It's not new words, but that's something definitely to be grateful for. Or maybe your child isn't saying words yet, but now when you talk to them, they're giving you a vocal response instead of a blank stare. Maybe now your child is pointing to exactly what they want, instead of standing in the middle of the kitchen screaming when they're hungry and you having to try to go through everything in the cabinet to figure it out. Those are monumental, expressive communication, natural expressive communication attempts and successes that are building confidence in your kiddos. The best way for you to continue to keep your mindset in the gratitude mode and avoiding the traps that will stop your mindset change and stop your child's mindset change. The best way to do that is to take video of your child every week. If you get that working so well for a week, you will see a different child in that video that you take. You definitely will. You might notice the difference in the communication intent, that your child wants to communicate with you more. You might also notice a decrease in frustration. okay, without even any verbal language. Video of you having fun, and your mindset will change, and your child's mindset will change. I promise you it will. It is for every family in our Waves of Communication program. That worry of wondering if your child will ever talk, will they ever, and those expectations that you have. The reason that it's so important for you to give up those expectations, all that prompting, all that if you do say this, you get this. The reason you have to give up all that stuff is because that's not how natural language works. And when you do give it up, then you open yourself and your child to the kind of surprise learning that happens when you see success with something, like jumping in the swimming pool the first time, that you actually really enjoy the journey instead of fighting over it. And when you enjoy the journey, you can see change and have a good time with it and really enjoy your language facilitation journey. So is it hard? Not so much hard. Is it challenging? Yeah, it definitely is challenging, because these parents are working really hard to overcome their worry and frustration. And the thing that I tell them every single time I talk to them is to continue to practice gratitude and appreciate all the fabulous new receptive and expressive communication that your children are using, and enjoy the natural communication connection that you have in the real 3D world as your children learn to use the words they need to share their wisdom with the world. So thank you so much for joining me today on this video. I really appreciate your attention, and if you have any questions, I'm going to be on Thursday doing my regular live Q&A, so you can join me there and ask any questions you want about language facilitation or languages and speech and language development for your child. So until then, I'll see you all next time. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day. Enjoy, do some language facilitation with your kids.